Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and today we have a preview of Blasphemous. Hey there gamers, it's Professor Meg here, and welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. Today we have a preview of Blasphemous, the board game by Ludus Magnus Studios. Now this is a current Game Found campaign, so you can check out the link down below for everything that they have in store for this game, because you're currently only going to be looking at one of the scenarios that you are able to play. But that being said, all of the rules, components, and things like that you see in front of you are subject to change and not the final version. Now that being said, there's also going to be a gameplay on the channel, so I am going to give a preview and an overview. But that being said, if you'd like to see a bit more of how the game plays and exactly what all of that looks like, you can check out the gameplay on the channel in the future. Now that being said, Blasphemous is going to be a game for 1 to 4 players where you are maneuvering around this board within different scenarios. So this is not a campaign game, it is not sequential, but you choose a scenario that you want to set up and play with, and that will have you put a few different things into play that you are going to be operating with. Players are going to be playing competitively as these different penitents. So you're going to have your player board with all of your different stats and things like that, and you're going to start off with slightly asymmetric abilities that will help you in different ways in the game. Now after that, you're going to maneuver around the board, interacting with the different locations, trying to buy different upgrades and see what you can change about your character to make them stronger and stronger. Then you're going to take different actions that you're able to do within your turn on the board, and then after that, play will continue. So it is a very fast-paced game where you're going through these pretty quick rounds, but that being said, within each scenario, you are going to have these final battles at the end. So, for example, the scenario that you're currently looking at, you're going to be fighting off against a Penitent. So, to be able to fight off against him, you need to get strong enough to even survive, let alone do damage to him. But once you're able to get to that area, you are able to hopefully win and take him out by winning 3 of his cards, 2 of the easier ones and 1 of the harder ones, and then hopefully you are able to win before anyone else. Now, the game also does kind of put you on a time clock where he is moving around the board in this scenario, and in other scenarios there's other things that are implemented. So that being said, players are playing against each other, but they are definitely playing against the game as well. So taking a look at a player board over here, you have a bunch of different stats that are going to be relative to the things that you are doing. So first over here on these tracks are going to be resources that you are able to use. You have your health here, which you're going to gain damage, but other than that, you also have the fire and the tears, which you are able to gain to purchase different things throughout the game that will upgrade you. Now along here you have your destiny, pain, and whisper track, and just to let you know what those ones will do, this one down here is going to allow you to make certain encounter checks, which I will go over when you're playing out your different turns. This one is going to be, you will gain 1 every time you lose a roll. So when you do lose rolls, it's not that bad, because once you gain 3, you are able to cash it in for other things. And then finally, this whisper track here is something that you need to be able to enter Penitent's space. So to be able to even enter his space to start fighting him off, you do need that, except for a one-time action encounter that you will be able to do. Now players also have their strength, agility, and cunning, and those are going to be very, very important. There are basic skills, for example, your cunning, but some things will specialize, for example, perception. So when you are playing the game, there are going to be multiple different times when you are interacting with these different checks. There are going to be points when you have your encounters here when you journey. You are also going to have this triggered depending on the different things that you choose to interact with, and when you're in the final boss battle, you are also going to be making skill checks as well. So those skills for your stats are going to be very, very important. And then other than that, you also have your defense that you do gain an inherent defense against certain types of attacks, and you are able to augment that when you make your character stronger and stronger. Now, finally, along this side of the board are going to be the upgrades that you are able to gain. So you are able to gain 3 different upgrades for your character, and all of them are going to be very significant. So this first prayer slot is going to be abilities that you are able to gain. For example, this one is you are able to spend 3 fire so that the opposite side of your gray die would also count as well during that combat. Now I am going to go over combat and attacking and things like that, but that's an example of something that would be something you have to pay to activate, and that's something that you are able to do. Because this next slot down here for your bead things, you are able to have these be things that permanently augment your skills. So for example, this one is when you perform a skill test, +1 strength, and the other one is you have resistance +1 against non-nemesis enemies. So those are things that are just inherently always happening, and once you purchase them, you don't have to pay anything to keep using them. Now finally, the bottom type of upgrade is going to be how you upgrade your dice in the game, because in this game you are dice building. So you are going to have 3 different dice available to you, and this is what you use when attacking, which I'll go over attacking when I go over in the actions of the game. But just know that you are going to be upgrading these when you purchase those different upgrades. So you have a bronze, silver, and gold, and taking a look at my bronze die here, let's see something that's a little bit weaker. This is a 1 symbol with a hand. So if I were to purchase a card that gave me a bronze upgrade, I would be able to use this fun little tool here and pop out that side of the die. Then I would go looking for whatever the upgrade would be. For example, this one is 3 and a foot, which is absolutely great. So that may be something that I put into my die. Now, something that's very important is that you actually don't add these to your die until the end of the round, so at the end of your turn. So that way it doesn't make any of the play slower, it doesn't slow anyone down, but also that's very important to know, because if you are attacking that round, you don't actually get that added to your die until the future round. So that could be very important when you choose when to attack and where you're gaining these upgrades. Now to walk you through the general pace of play of the game, players are going to have 2 different options at their turn. So first they are going to be able to move, and then they are going to choose from 3 available actions. So first you can choose to move, but you don't have to if you want to use the action ability where you are, but you are able to move up to 2. So for example, if we had this character here, we would be able to move 1 and then 2 up to here. Now this area spot is heal 3, so that might not be the best for me at the beginning of the game, but if I did have any damage on me, that would be very, very important. So first you would move, and then you would activate the ability of the location that you're at. Now other examples of the location abilities that you'll see are things like gaining 2 tears and healing 1 heart. Your tears and fire are going to be extremely important in this game because they are very, very helpful. Other locations are going to be where you are able to purchase those different upgrades, and some of them will either allow you to purchase at a discount, or there are some areas such as this one down here where you were able to draw 3 cards of any decks, even mixing and matching, but then you do not get a discount. Or you could choose to use this ability to draw just 1 bead card and pay a -1 discount, but if you do choose to draw 3, you can pay for as many as you can afford without the discount applied. So once a player moves and activates their location ability, they have 3 choices of the actions that they are able to do. The first thing that players are able to do is if they're in a safe location with no enemies, they're able to take an explore action. So for exploration, you are going to roll 2 dice. You're going to roll a d10 as well as the percentile die, giving you a percentage number. Now anything that you have down here in this track is also going to apply to that. So this character currently has 50, meaning that this is probably going to be a pretty high roll for them. Oh, that's not too crazy. So they rolled a 25. Now 25 plus 50 means that they actually rolled a 75, and now during the game, players are going to read from the corresponding book depending on what's happening. So if you were in the general area of Custodia, you would read from this book here. However, this character is actually here with this token, so they are able to read from the location where they are. So this is location number 4, Albero, and normally other players would read this for you because you would be making a check. So here we are going to go over to page 75, and I'll show you what would happen. So for 71 to 80, discovery. Apply, you would gain 10. You would also gain a tear and a fire, and then draw a public quest card. So you would gain all of that stuff on your player board, and then you would draw a public quest card. Now, quest cards are going to be things that any players can work towards, so anyone would then be able to access that public quest as opposed to personal quests that you would be doing yourself. So this is something that would be opening up for anyone to be able to do, and normally these public quests, some start in the game, and then some are also spawned in other ways such as this. Another thing players are able to do on their turn is dash, and that's just moving 2 additional spaces. So this player would be able to dash if they wanted to end up here on their next turn, so that's something that you are able to do. But finally, what players are able to do when they are in a spot with an enemy, such as we currently are, you are able to use your action to attack. So again, just to clarify, you would have to have moved and then be in the spot with an enemy, and then you are able to use the attack action as opposed to the dash or exploration action. actions. So me dashing up there, you wouldn't be able to attack like that, but you would be able to attack in this scenario if they started off in this space. So taking a look at combat, you would grab the card for the corresponding figure that you are fighting against. So this one is our Shield Maiden, and this is who we would be fighting. And to read this card, the top row is what you need to roll. So it currently requires a 1, a 2, and a foot to be able to beat this character. However, you'll still take a damage unless you roll at least 1 shield. And when the Shield Maiden is defeated, they will move up on their own rage track, making them a little bit scarier. So for this player to be able to attack, we will take all of our dice here, and then you will roll them hoping for that 1, 2, a foot, and maybe a shield. So here you can see we have a 1 and a shield, which is great, meaning that we need a 2 and a foot still, but neither of these are able to do it. Now, depending on your character, you may not be able to do this. However, this current character does have an ability where they're able to spend 2 fire to reroll one of their die. So they'll currently do that. We'll spend 2 to reroll one of our dice, and we'll reroll our gold. Now, we're hoping for a 2 as well as a foot on this, which we are able to roll. So let's see if we are able to do it, because we need both of those in this one roll. And we did not get it. We got a 1 and a shield. So this is where we would not be successful. However, we did get the shield, so we would not take a damage back. Now, something else players are able to do is ask for help. So if you are fighting someone, but you think you might not be able to take them out on your own, if someone is either in your space or adjacent to you, you're able to call them in and ask for help. But they don't have to help you if they don't want to. So they are able to help, and it is, you know, pretty good to be able to help other players and take these enemies out off the board. But if you choose not to help, you'll gain a guilt token instead. Now, these guilt tokens are bad and you want to discard them by the end of the game, but this is going to be one of the ways that you would gain them. Overall, the pace of play of the game is going to be players taking turns going back and forth, going through the cycle of moving if they choose to, either 1 or 2 spots, and then going through those different actions. So either choosing to go through exploration, to dash if they want to start getting closer to specific areas, or they could choose to attack and call in for help if they need to. Now, another thing to notice is looking at the map, it really is set up very uniquely that not every location is next to each other. So for example, this location here is directly connected to this spot here. However, this spot goes all the way over to here. So these 2 spots are connected, not touching here. So it is a little bit tricky at first, but it can be very fun maneuvering around the board and seeing what you are able to do, because there are also some locations that are connected to each other. So over here we have location 3, but it's actually connected to location 12. So you could choose to use 1 movement point to go to 3, and then another movement point to go to 12, which is actually over here. So while it can be a bit tricky trying to figure out where you want to go and what is most efficient for you, you are able to use those special locations such as 21 here going to 9 to get around the map a little bit faster. Now, players will be using the exploration action to primarily be drawing pilgrimage cards. There are pilgrimage cards over here, and those are what is going to help you be able to gain whispers to be able to enter Tenpidon's space. So you do need whispers to be able to enter his space and attack him, and when you explore, if you roll high enough, these pilgrimages are going to be what you need to fulfill to get those whispers. Now, usually you can discard it just to draw 1 whisper and gain that, but they're also going to have you going on these adventures trying to go to specific areas to hopefully gain even more whispers if you are successful with the tests that you make. Now, I've mentioned Tenpidon a whole lot, but this is what it's going to look like when you're actually fighting him. So if his space, if he had been, say for example, over here, and we chose to move into his space to go and fight him, we would then spawn on this board instead, and this is where his combat actually takes place. So if you were to do that, the player would take their token just to signify where they were, so you can put them back at the end of the encounter if they should choose to leave it and not win the game. But this is how you would win the game as well. Now, this encounter with Tenpidon is going to be what the entire game is about. You are building up your dice and your abilities and everything that you can throw at him, because these encounters are going to be very strong and very, very scary. So you're going to pull this out, and then you're going to need to beat him both twice on the easier level and then finally on his hardest level to be able to win the game. So as soon as a player does enter this area, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will win. They still need to beat all of these battles, and you don't need to do it all in one shot either. So you could beat him in, say, 1 or 2 of the cards and then choose to leave and then go fight him again later to try to win the game. So taking a look here, when players enter this area, they're going to first choose where they want to take their stance. So for example, example, if you choose to start here, you'll place your character there, and then you will draw the card for him. So taking a look at this card here, he is going to spawn in this area here. So this is where he is, and we are actually not close. Oh, we are right in front of him, so we are able to attack him. Now, depending on what you have here, it will change a few different things, that you may take damage at the end of the turn, or it may augment some of the things that you do as well. So for example, where we are, we're kind of getting everything, where we are on a gold spot, so we are able to re-roll our gold die once. We are also where he is attacking us, so we would be taking 2 damage at the end of the round. But on top of that, we are also able to get a -2 to the stat check there. So you do a stat test before you go into combat, and with this, you would get a -2 to your ability. Now this one is actually a star, meaning that you could choose any ability that you want, but you would then test it, and then after that, depending on the success or failure, you would either, if you succeed, you have resistance +2 against this card, and if you fail, you would take 2 damage. So if you were able to succeed that stat test, then standing here where you would take damage at the end of the round doesn't really matter because you are able to resist it. But now taking a look at his card, you can see how much more difficult it is, that you need to roll at least a 1, 2, or 3, and then 3 different symbols. So those ones, again, are a bit easier, where you are able to roll any symbol, but you are trying to roll certain ones. Now you can see here that his roll requires a 1, 2, and a 3, and then 3 of any symbol. So this does give players a little bit more flexibility, where you're able to apply whatever symbols you would like, and it only needs 3 of them, but you do need to also roll the 1, 2, and a 3. And then you would take 3 damage back unless you have a shield, a foot, and a hand. Now, another thing that players are able to do is flee, so if they went to any of these back areas, they would be able to flee and then take the bonus that is there. So this is a chance where you may have defeated the first card, and then you see the second card, and you might decide, I should just get out of here before trying to work further toward him on future turns. Overall, Blasphemous is going to be a very fast-paced game. You're going to start off with almost nothing, and you have to build yourself up stronger and stronger, not only to take out the different enemies and what the game is throwing at you, but to work yourself up toward that big bad to be able to take them out. Now, health is easy come and easy go in this game, where you are able to take a whole lot of damage, you are able to die and come back, you would gain a guilt token, so it is a little bit detrimental, but you are able to die and keep going, and a lot of these things are going to hurt you pretty hard. So you're also going to be paying attention to what other players are doing, because there is that mechanic where you're either able to jump in and help with their battles, or they're able to help with yours. So maneuvering yourself around the board depending on what different things you want to be doing, along with what monsters are on the board, is very, very important. Another thing is going to be the public quests that you want to keep an eye on, because players are going to be working toward those, and if you are working toward one, you want to make sure no one takes it out from under you. That being said, if you're able to take one from someone else, that's just as fair, right? So you want to be keeping an eye on those to see what you were able to accomplish, but also what you're able to keep other players from accomplishing as well. So you're going to be constantly working up your characters, and it's going to feel like you are getting stronger and stronger, and then all of a sudden you're just throwing everything you have at this final boss. Now, if you'd like to see exactly how this game plays, there will be a gameplay up on the channel, so be sure to check that out. I do highly suggest checking it out, because it is a great example of how this gameplay will play, especially with a bit of the narrative elements that you have when you're interacting with the different exploration actions. This has been a preview of Blasphemous by Ludus Magnus Studios. I've been Professor Meg. Thank you all for watching the Board Game Code channel, and I will see you next time. Bye!